This Sunday, I'm taking the plunge. I'm getting baptized.
What's that?
Holy water.
You keep it away. It burns! Oh, it burns!
I'm taking the plunge. I'm getting baptized.
Okay, so Russell Brand has found God. Despite God's desperate attempts to hide from Brand, he's found him. Okay, well, what I want to talk about is what might be behind this new interest that Brand has in religion. Okay.
That's right, folks. Russell Brand, the Hollywood celebrity, the actor, comedian, podcaster, he has officially gotten baptized and joined the kingdom, the body of Christ, which is very exciting news, not just because there's someone who has gotten baptized and that in and of itself is worth celebrating, but also because Russell Brand is a celebrity. And I in no way think that celebrities are more important than us regular folks or better than everyone else.
Okay, I'm going to jump in here and say, I don't think celebrities are better or worse than normal people. I do, however, think the kind of person that would grape is worse than everybody. Or whatever other gross stuff that Russell is accused of doing is worse than would make him worse than everybody else. Now, these are accusations that he denies. Well, most of them he denies. I don't want to say that he's definitely guilty, so I'll get somebody else to say it instead.
And after looking at them, I find, at least in the circumstance of the woman from Los Angeles, that her allegations are credible. That's going to get me into a lot of trouble, but I found the allegations to be credible because one of the things that I always say about the Me Too victims, when it's an onslaught of Me Too victims, is that they never have any proof. They say something happened a very long time ago. They didn't tell anybody a long time ago. They didn't go to the police. They never said anything to the person. And then suddenly, when there's a political opportunity to take someone down, they just go, me too, me too, me too. And I find that to be crap. But in the circumstance of this particular Los Angeles woman, according to the investigation and the messages that have been produced to verify what she said in the statement, that Russell Brand raped her, apologized to her from raping her, and she went immediately to a rape crisis center. And her visit to that rape crisis center way back in 2012 has been confirmed. So I have read these text messages between her and Russell Brand. And as I said, this looks legitimate to me. And I don't think that Russell Brand has yet spoken out and said that these are doctored messages. So how can we look at these messages and say that this woman is lying? So as a first part of this, just talking about that, we can read these messages. Russell writes to her, and again, I'll say allegedly because maybe he's going to come out and say that these were doctored. I'm sorry, that was crazy and selfish. I hope you can forgive me. I know that you're a lovely person. X. The date on this is July of 2012. She responds and she says, you scared the out of me. You're right. I am a lovely person. And for you to take advantage of me like that is unacceptable. You have a problem. You need help. It's dangerous that you think you can get your own way all the time. Do you know how scary you are when that glazed look comes over you? When a girl says no, it means no. Do I have to go and get myself tested? Last time you asked me condom or no condom. When I say condom, that doesn't mean that it's optional. You don't have the best reputation. I pride myself on being safe and trying to make the right decisions. Obviously, this was a bad one. I'm so disappointed. He then responds and says, I'm very sorry. You don't need to get tested. I will make this up to you somehow with life and kindness. Not my original idea, which was more sex. You've been lovely to me and I'm embarrassed by my behavior. And then later on, looks like a month later, she never answered him and he said, will you ever forgive me? Now, when you read that message, maybe you could read into this any other way. You could say, well, maybe he just didn't use a condom and she didn't, and that was the problem. Like, obviously they had consensual sex in the past. And then obviously she said no to something. That's what we can discern from this message. And Russell Brand proceeded to do whatever he wanted to do with a glazed look in his eye. She then, as we learned, within 24 hours went to a rape crisis center. So yes, these allegations are credible. And I just want to make that statement that despite the fact that we may all love who Russell Brand is today, and I do love who Russell Brand is today, when Russell Brand was a commie leftist and the media applauded him and put him everywhere, that he was a drug addict. He was a sex addict. He was in his addictions and he was being celebrated by the same media that is now trying to take him down. And that is the portion that is suspicious. Why did the media wait until Russell Brand was clean and sober and married and having his third child, right, on the brink of having his third child as he is right now, and speaking out about trying to, and I felt this, you know, when I sat down with him the first time, that he is redeeming himself. Why wait until 11 years to bring forth these allegations?
Yeah, a lot of people say this about how it's a long time ago. He's got his life back together. Why should he get into trouble now? And I would say to that, because the victims deserve their justice more than a rapist deserves to get on with their life. If somebody doesn't want to be locked up for doing bad stuff, they just shouldn't do it in the first place. If I robbed a bank like 10 years ago and the police only caught me now, I would be sent to prison. So why should that not be the same for grape then? I think abuse against a person is worse than like stealing money, actually.
On the heels of Nala Gate, or that former OnlyFans star leaving OnlyFans for now, supposedly. I mean, we have a whole video discussing that. With her conversion, there was a lot of skepticism from the general public about whether she had really been saved or was just using Christianity as a fad, as a ploy to leave her past behind and kind of start a new slate and, you know, be accepted by civil society. And I have heard people point out that, hang on, Russell Brand, with his conversion, his baptism, he doesn't seem to be facing the same level of skepticism as Nala. Is this just sexism against, you know, sex workers and women in general? I have to say no. And don't get me wrong, if you guys have seen my video on Nala, I very much believe that we will know them by their fruits. I hope and I pray that Nala's conversion, her rebirth, is sincere, as is her new walk with Christ. But ultimately, this is something where I think we're just going to have to wait and see how things play out. But I think even if you are someone who doesn't really believe that Nala is a Christian now, you could accept that Russell Brand is a bit of a different scenario. It seems like his journey, his evolution, has actually been years in the making now.
Yes, it is sexism against women. As we all know, the theme for like the red pill Christian conservative and all that is to laugh at women and try to make out that modern Western women are stupid. Okay, on platforms like the whatever podcast, they get a load of normally OnlyFans women, normally women that forget to put any clothes on before they turn up, and try to portray women as all slutty and all stupid. Okay, and we know that a woman who does OnlyFans is seen in that sphere as worse than a guy that groomed women and teenage girls and ran a webcam studio. Okay, so it's hardly as surprising that somebody like Russell Brand would want to sort of be in with like the Christians, the conservatives, to try to make himself look good to these kind of communities. Like, you know, Russell Brand's reputation is kind of in the mud at the moment, all right, because of the allegations, and a lot of people hate the kind of person that would do what he is accused of, okay? But there's going to still be some people that like him, and which people are more likely to like him, okay? He's probably already got a few people that are right-wing that follow him because of his anti-vaccination talk, okay? But also, when it comes to people on the left, there's more people that are like feminist on the left who will be like #BelieveWomen. Well, there's more people on the right that don't agree with that. But there's also like the extremist on the right that will think that like all women are liars despite what the evidence are. And there's also those that even if they think he's a rapist, will still like him because that's the way some people think, okay? And yeah, he did just suddenly like decide to come out as like Christian now that his reputation is in the mud. So no, I don't believe it's just a steady progress, and now he's suddenly a slow process, a slow journey for him waking up to being religious. I think he suddenly decided to put on this religious act now when he's trying to make himself look better and trying to appeal to the right kind of crowd.
And be reborn. This Sunday, I'm taking the plunge. I'm getting baptized. At the moment, I'm very curious as to what you who have been baptized feel about it, what your expectations are of the event prior, and what it's actually like. What's been explained to me is it's an opportunity to die and be reborn, an opportunity to leave the past behind and be reborn in Christ's name, like it says in Galatians, that you can live as an enlightened and awakened person. Sometimes I think of non-Christian perspectives on it, like Marcus Aurelius saying, you are already dead, now live the rest of your life properly. Or the Buddhist saying, put down the corpse. All of these things seem so inviting and beautiful. I know a lot of people are sort of cynical about the increasing interest in Christianity.
And so just the fact that he's bringing up non-Christian sources in relation to baptism, there are going to be people who say, hang on a second, is this more of this universalism? Oh, a baptism is just generally being reborn. I think it's difficult to say, because I think you can absolutely be someone who is a biblical Christian, but also someone who recognizes, and I think I'm going to be generous and assume this is Russell Brand's position here, that Christian perspectives and theologies have echoed throughout time, even before Christ the Messiah was born. There's a reason why Christ's story resonates with so many of us, even those who are not Christian. It's because deep in our core, we understand there is that need for rebirth, for redemption.
Okay, and speaking of the need for redemption, okay, I think one of the reasons why sometimes some people, if they've done very bad stuff in their past, then become religious. Some of them, I think it is because they are frightened of going to hell, okay? Now, who springs to mind here is actually Roosh V. Roosh V is an ex-pickup artist, and back in the day, he was a little bit like Andrew Tate, he thinks he's the best alpha male role model for young men and all that. And this Roosh V wrote all these books about banging as many women as possible and how to do it, right? And some of the people that have reviewed his book, they claim that some of the stuff is arguably great. Like he mentions, like having sex with a woman when she was on drugs, and she didn't seem to know what was happening. There's a lot of sexual coercion, and some of it is like abusive. But anyway, like now he's given all that up and he's become Catholic, I believe now, and he's like all into this praying and all that. And I can't help but think, is it really because he's done some very bad stuff in the past and he's frightened of going to hell? And I do think some people do that, like become very religious, and if they've done very bad stuff, they're praying all the time, really, because they're like terrified of going to hell. Which you could say, well, if somebody's frightened of going to hell, well, it probably does mean they genuinely do believe then, because why would you be frightened of hell if you don't believe in it? Okay, but I just think sometimes it's the wrong reasons. I don't think it's just that there's such a good believer. Like, I think if they hadn't have done the bad stuff, like, they wouldn't be praying all the time, and they wouldn't be so fixated on religion in the first place. With Russell Brand, I don't know whether he does genuinely believe or not. I do think, well, like I said, he knows which people to sort of get on side. Like, if he wants more fans, he knows which people to appeal to. And I don't think it's any coincidence that part of Russell Brand's inspiration for becoming religious seems to be Candace Owens, okay?
Is the Pope Catholic? Yes. And now so is Candace Owens. Why is everyone turning to Christianity?
And I kind of think, well, Candace is somebody who said that, like we've just heard, that she believes the accusers, so she believes that he is guilty of rape, but still likes Russell Brand anyway, and still thinks that he has the ability to become a better person, okay? And I think, well, this is probably exactly what he wants to hear. Like, if you think about it, if you've done really awful bad stuff in the past, having somebody be like, well, and even though he denies it, but hearing somebody like think, well, I know that you've done bad stuff, but I still like you anyway, and I don't blame you because I think you were on drugs and, we're going through a bad time. I mean, this is going to be exactly what he wants to hear. It's basically telling him he's a victim, taking the accountability off of him, telling him he doesn't have to feel bad about himself. I mean, that's probably exactly what he wants, so I assume that that's the kind of crowd that he wants to appeal to. I also think the fact that Russell Brand seems to be a fan of Candace Owens, despite the fact that she believes his accusers, or at least believes one of the accusers, makes it look all the more like he's guilty. Because if you'd been accused of doing something really awful, and you didn't do it, surely you wouldn't like somebody who, it doesn't believe you, is believing your accusers. Candice isn't believing him when he says that he didn't do it. She's believing the accuser, okay? And he's seems to be a fan of hers, and that to me looks all the more like he's guilty, because surely you wouldn't like somebody who wasn't believing you. Because the thing is if Russell Brand did do it, he's never going to admit it, obviously, but he knows where to find certain communities that are going to be accepting of him, even if he has done what he's accused of in the past. Another thing that I think some people I don't think quite understand as well is that when you get people who have personality disorders where they have no empathy or no ability to feel guilt, this is incurable. This isn't something you can just get over, okay? Because people say but Russell Brand was on drugs then and he was addicted to sex and he's turned his life around and all that. And it's well, yeah, he might have turned his life around in the sense that he's healthier now, that he's not addicted to drugs or sex, and he might not be a danger to people in that sense. Okay, but he's still mentally ill. People say he has narcissistic personality disorder. Some people have speculated whether he could have some psychopath tendencies because in his autobiography, he wrote about being a bit cruel to animals when he was a child, and that can be a sign of at least a sign of being sadistic, right? And I'm not saying that everybody who has personality disorders is bad, but I will say that in my opinion, somebody that is a rapist is yes, I think that is an evil thing to do, okay? And I kind of think if you're talking about a woman who had done say the worst kind of thing to men, say what they talk about in the manosphere sometimes. Say a woman, if a guy said his ex-wife took him to the cleaners in the divorce, she made up allegations, she stopped him seeing the children, and now he's left a broken man. If I turned around and said oh, well, that was a long time ago, she's a better person now, she's really nice now, it's would you believe it? It's I mean, people that have done really awful stuff in the past and just not cared about other people, it's I don't really believe that they just most of the time just change, okay? Also, if Russell Brand felt that bad about what he did, he wouldn't have made jokes like this on stage.
I'm just a sort of a bloke from Essex, from a single parent family. That's a pretty comprehensive show off.
Yeah.
So that's I suppose if there's anything being protected, it's that. Oh, and also I raped someone once.
But yeah, you've got the insecurity.
I killed her after.
She'll never tell.
The other thing I want to draw people's attention to is a conversation he had with Jimmy Savile. If you don't know for people who don't know who Jimmy Savile is, this is a guy who is one of the most notorious evil. He's raped children and adults, but it's likely hundreds of children. He's thoroughly evil scumbag. But it wasn't figured out like what he did until after he died. Okay, so at the time when Russell Brand is talking to Jimmy Savile, he doesn't know what he's done, but take notice of like the conversation that they have.
It'd be very nice to meet you one day, Mr. Jimmy Savile, just, you know.
If you've got a sister, you could meet me by bringing her along.
I mean, I haven't got any sisters, but...
I don't usually meet fellas, but if you've got a sister, that's okay.
I've got a personal assistant called Marsha, and part of her job description is that anyone I demand she greets, meets, massages, she has to do it. She's very attractive, Jimmy.
Well, that's a good start.
What kind of
start? You could send her along to do some research.
Would you like her to wear anything in particular, Sir Jimmy?
I'd actually prefer her to wear nothing.
Right. So you want Marsha, my assistant, to meet you naked? Okay. Well, that's not going to be a problem.
Nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that, Jimmy. It's just
the last time I spoke like this was to Father Christmas.
Oh yeah, I never trusted those Father Christmases in Debenhams or other stores. They're available. Oh, I said stores instead of shops. I've been in America too long. I don't trust the Father Christmases you get these days, Jimmy. I think perhaps you should be. I think I've always thought of you as a sort of a Father Christmas figure. You know, solving problems.
I couldn't stand a drop in wages.
Jimmy, it's been divine of you to talk to me in this restaurant. Thank you very much. I wonder, would you pass on my best wishes to your beautiful dinner companion, and perhaps you'd consider coming on the show again in the future?
Who knows? I'm always available, and my beautiful dinner companion will have to remain secret because she is of outstanding beauty.
Ooh.
And as such, if you saw her, you would lust after her.
Particularly if I saw her with you, because that just heightens the sexuality of the situation. Thinking
No, I'm not into threesomes.
But Jimmy, there was a time when you were the defining voice of the BBC, and perhaps...
I still am.
You are now, you are tonight, but you should be... As well as passing down information, you should be passing along other things, people could argue.
I've never passed anything in my life, I only take.
Jimmy Savile, thank you very much for your call. Hey, Jimmy, could we...
Honour and a pleasure, and in the words of Omar Khayyam,
Woohoo! Jimmy Savile there! My word, what a moment for us all.
Yeah, it's really nice to hear them just bonding over their mutual sleaziness towards women, isn't it?
Because at the end of the day, we are all imperfect. That's exactly why we need Jesus in the first place. And speaking of that imperfection, it didn't take long for Russell Brand to post something that made people really question how knowledgeable or how committed he is to his newfound Christian faith. Along with the caption on his X account, "Take the blindfold off and you will see," Brand actually posted a video with tarot cards. And obviously, most Christians will recognize the fact that no, tarot cards don't really fit in within the Christian theology, the Christian worldview. And so
next he'll be getting out the healing crystals. No, don't take vaccines, they put poison in your body. Instead, put this rock around your neck and it will boost your immune system naturally. That's the kind of thing like I'd imagine him coming out with next. So yeah, basically, I don't buy this about Russell Brand, like, turning his life around and being a better person. I think a lot of this is for show. I think he knows which audience to sort of pander to, which people, are more likely to sort of be on his side if he says stuff like that. I don't buy it, okay? So that's all I've got to say about that. Thank you for listening.